We have been hearing more and more over the last several weeks to month and a half or so, Republicans and right-wing media pushing the narrative of a crisis at the border and a surge in undocumented crossings. Last week, we covered House Minority Leader Republican Congressman Kevin McCarthy, who staged an event at the U.S.-Mexico border, said unaccompanied minors are coming to the U.S. in crisis levels, and the crisis was caused by Joe Biden. Kevin McCarthy said that terrorists are coming in through the U.S.-Mexico border from Yemen, Turkey, and Iran. There was no actual evidence of that, but this is the narrative. It's been pushed by Fox News reporters during press briefings. It's been pushed in news reports. It's been pushed by Republicans at press conferences. Is this real? Well, the Washington Post analyzed Border Patrol data going back to 2012, and there appears to be no crisis whatsoever. There is no surge that we could link to Biden administration policy. What we are seeing is data that tracks a seasonal pattern. This is the time of year where there are more migrants attempting to cross and interacting with Border Patrol, plus some what we might call pent up demand from the COVID period last year when movement was just dramatically reduced. So if we look at a chart of encounters per month at the border, looking at the last few years, and we're putting that up on the screen, what you see is that numbers went up at exactly this time of year in 2019. They did not in 2020 because of the pandemic. They went up slightly at this time in 2018. And that's the pattern. It's a pattern that's been observed for some time. Now, yes, apprehended migrants are up 28% from January to February, but apprehended migrants were up 31% during the same period in 2019. It is true that the raw numbers are higher right now than last year and the year before. Remember, movement in general went down during the pandemic. So what you're seeing, number one right now, is a resumption of movement. And number two, some backed up demand from people who did not move around last year. Now, let me be very clear, because I know I'm going to get emails about this. I'm not saying we don't need total and complete immigration reform. We do. This doesn't mean that Joe Biden has done enough to stop deportations. He hasn't. And I've talked about that. It simply is not the crisis that Republicans want you to think it is. It's the crisis that we've had in this country for a long time, combined with a lack of comprehensive immigration reform, which I and others have been calling for just as long of a time. What Trump did last year with Title 42, which is using the pandemic as a reason to turn people around and deport, it seems to have delayed people from coming, not stopped people from coming, period. That's the story. Many of them are coming now, not because Joe Biden is president, but because the pandemic is to some degree easing. Almost identical to Joe Biden's surging gas prices last week, which we covered earlier this week. We are seeing gas prices go up. It's not because of Joe Biden. They started going up in October when Donald Trump was still president. And what we're seeing is demand for gasoline recover as the pandemic starts to ease. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. So serious media should really just report this based on facts, but without using the language that the right uses. You know, when you talk about border crisis, it's sort of like Sleepy Joe and China virus. These are terms that the right uses to frame the debate in a particular way, where you're no longer questioning whether there is a border crisis. You're merely arguing as to whose fault it is and to what degree it exists. And this is how the right does really well at framing issues. It keeps Republican voters enraged. It doesn't really allow solutions to the problems, however. So call it a predictable seasonal pattern that we've observed for a decade, bolstered by the waning of coronavirus to some degree. And even what we would call non-right-wing media is using a lot of the terms of the right when they talk about this. And as I've talked about before, don't let them even set the agenda and narrative by using the language. And that's what they successfully have done on so many issues for decades, as we've talked about with people like George Lakoff and Thomas Frank here on the program. So don't fall for it. Here's the data. The data's clear. And we're going to continue to track that data. Tomorrow, Friday, finally, the day is here. The 1-day David Pakman Show membership special. We are doing a massive blowout of memberships. We're hoping for massive membership dumps tomorrow. If you want to be notified of a 1-day, I hesitate to even say that it's a moral discount. I believe the discount we're offering tomorrow is immoral. It's vaccine themed. If you want to be notified tomorrow morning, just get on my newsletter at davidpakman.com. If you are anything like me, you probably aren't thrilled with the idea of going into a doctor's office right now. And thankfully, there's a practical and affordable way to take control of your health and get personalized care from the comfort of your home. It's a service called SteadyMD. They're one of our sponsors. You take a quiz, you get matched with a licensed primary care physician who understands your health needs. You have a 1-hour video call with your new doctor. You establish a meaningful relationship with them. And after that, your doctor is available to you anytime by text, phone, or video chat. This is not a random doctor on call. Each doctor at SteadyMD has a limited number of patients, so they actually have time to listen to you. You get the personal attention that you deserve. They can do almost everything an in-person doctor can do: perform medical evaluations, talk to you about health concerns, send prescriptions to your home or local pharmacy, and anything they can't do online, they'll quickly set you up with an in-person provider to do, things like blood tests, as an example. You don't need insurance. It's only $99 a month with no other fees or copays. There are so many practical advantages to using SteadyMD for primary care, and it's also so much more affordable. Go to steadymd.com/Pakman to take the free quiz, see which doctor is right for you. I took their quiz. They matched me with a doctor who specializes in my particular health needs and situation. The doctor they gave me is a really perfect fit for me and my medical needs. There's no risk, no commitment to get started. Just click the link right underneath this video.